Ethan Hart had learned to live with ghosts, the kind that did not rattle chains in the darkness but lingered quietly inside the heart, whispering memories you could never outrun. He was a billionaire by the world's definition, a man who owned half the skyline in 3 cities, but all the glass towers and polished boardrooms meant nothing compared to the single loss that shaped every part of him, his little sister, Lily. She had vanished when he was 12 and she was 9, pulled from his hand during a chaotic night their troubled mother tried to run from an abusive boyfriend. They were separated in a crowd, and Lily, terrified, crying, and marked by a small crescent-shaped scar on her wrist, was never seen again. For 25 years, Ethan searched. He hired investigators, sifted through adoption agencies, foster records, shelters, hospitals, anything that could give him one hint. Each lead felt promising, each dead end felt like losing her all over again. Eventually the world concluded Lily was gone. Ethan never did. On a gray winter morning in Chicago, Ethan stopped at a diner he hadn't visited in years. He used to come here with Lily as kids when their mother was sober enough to give them breakfast. The place was old, cramped, its neon sign flickering through dust-coated windows. Ethan didn't know why he stopped. Maybe nostalgia, maybe loneliness, maybe something he couldn't yet explain. He sat in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug of bitter coffee, mind drifting through old memories that scraped against the hard like sandpaper. He was scanning the room absent-mindedly when a waitress walked by, her voice soft but steady as she greeted another table. Ethan glanced up, and froze. The woman had the same warm brown eyes Lily had, soft, almost round, with a way of blinking twice when she was nervous. The same dark hair, tied into a quick messy bun their mother used to fix on Lily every morning. But it wasn't her face that made his world shift. It was her wrist. A tray tilted slightly in her hand, and as she steadied it, the sleeve of her uniform slid back, and Ethan saw it. A small crescent-shaped scar, almost identical to the one Lily had gotten when she fell off her bike at age 7. His heart slammed hard enough to steal his breath. He stood abruptly, knocking the table, hot coffee sloshing over the rim. The waitress did not notice. She had already turned toward the counter, taking an order pad from her apron pocket. Ethan followed her with slow, disbelieving steps, afraid that getting too close might shatter the fragile hope rising in him. She moved gracefully, her smile gentle but tired, the smile of someone who carried too much weight for too long. She couldn't be Lily. It was impossible. But what if all these years she had been right here, living an ordinary life while he searched the entire world and still missed her? Ethan finally approached her. "Excuse me," he said, his voice rougher than he intended. She turned, polite but slightly wary. "Yes, what can I get for you?" she asked. Ethan swallowed. I'm sorry, but do you mind if I ask your name?" She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "My name's Lucy," she said. "Is everything all right, Lucy, not Lily?" Maybe he was wrong. Maybe grief had finally twisted his mind. Ethan shook his head. "I'm sorry, you look like someone I used to know." Her expression softened, but there was a guardedness in her eyes that didn't match a life of ease. "I get that sometimes. Must have one of those faces." But Ethan's gaze dropped to her wrist again. "Your scar, may I ask how you got it?" She instinctively pulled her sleeve over it, a long-held habit. "Bike accident. I was 7. At least that's what my foster mom told me." She gave a small, awkward smile. "I don't remember much from before I was 8. Everything before that is like trying to look through fogged-up glass." Ethan felt the world tilt. Her voice, her face, the scar, the lost memories, every detail clicked into place like a puzzle piece that had waited decades to be returned to the picture. But he couldn't just say it. He couldn't break her world open that fast. "Lucy," he whispered, his voice trembling, "your foster records, do you know where you were before that?" She shook her head. "Just that the police found me wandering alone behind a mall one night, scared and freezing. They thought my parents abandoned me, but I couldn't tell them anything. No name, no address, nothing." A shard of pain pierced Ethan, because he remembered that night too. The cold, the sirens, the officers pulling him away from the mall parking lot after hours of searching. His mother screaming, the realization that Lily was gone. Ethan took a slow breath, forcing himself to stay steady. "Can we talk, just for a moment? It's important." Lucy looked hesitant, but something in his eyes must have convinced her. She nodded and led him to a small table in the back, away from the lunch crowd. She sat, fingers nervously twisting the corner of her apron. "So, what's this about?" she asked gently. Ethan laced his trembling hands together. "I had a sister," he said. "Her name was Lily. She disappeared when she was 9. We were separated during a chaotic night. She had a scar like yours. Same shape, same story." Lucy's breath stilled. For a moment she said nothing, only stared at him with an expression he couldn't read. Then she whispered, What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I think." His voice broke. He had been waiting 25 years to say these words. "I think you might be Lily." Her face paled. She sat back slowly, shaking her head. "No, that's not possible. I don't remember anything. How could I be your sister? You're a billionaire, aren't you? Ethan Hart, I've seen you on TV. Why would someone like you have a sister who ended up a foster kid working in a diner?" Tears filled Ethan's eyes, tears he had learned to swallow long ago. "Because life wasn't always what it is now. We were poor, our mother struggled, we moved constantly, and the night I lost you, I tried to hold your hand, Lily. I did, but the crowd pushed us apart." Lucy blinked rapidly, once, twice, the same way Lily used to when she was overwhelmed. I don't know," she whispered. "I want to believe you, but how can we be sure?" "We can get a DNA test," Ethan said. "I'll arrange everything, but even before the science, I know. I feel it." Lucy's eyes filled, but she looked away. Can I think about it? It's a lot." "Of course," Ethan said softly. He reached into his wallet and placed a business card on the table. "Whenever you're ready. I've waited 25 years. I can wait a little longer." She nodded, wiped her eyes, and stood abruptly, returning to work with her composure trembling like a thin sheet of ice. Ethan left the diner with a heart full of hope and fear, hope that he had finally found her, fear that he could lose her again. The next morning, Lucy stood outside his skyscraper, clutching his card so tightly the edges had bent. She barely slept. The idea of family, of someone actually searching for her, scared her more than it comforted her. But something in Ethan's eyes, raw, honest, broken, pulled her here. Ethan met her in the lobby, shocked and emotional. "You came," he whispered. Lucy nodded. "I need answers." He guided her upstairs to a quiet office where a DNA specialist waited. The entire process took only a few minutes. Just a simple cheek swab. But the waiting, those hours were torture. Lucy paced the room, her breath shallow. Ethan sat still, gripping the armrest of his chair until his knuckles turned white. Finally, the specialist returned with an envelope. Ethan's hands trembled as he opened it. He read the results, and his breath caught in a silent sob. "It's you," he whispered, voice cracking. "Lily, it's you. You're my sister." Lucy's knees buckled, and Ethan caught her as she collapsed into his arms. She cried into his chest, shaking, overwhelmed by a truth she never knew she'd longed for. "I don't remember anything," she sobbed. "It doesn't matter," Ethan whispered, holding her as tightly as he had wished to decades ago. "You're home now, and I'm never losing you again." For the next hour they talked, about their childhood, the mother they lost to addiction, the years Ethan spent searching, the life Lucy lived bouncing through foster homes. She admitted she had always wondered about the empty spaces in her past, the feeling that she belonged somewhere else. Ethan listened with a heavy but grateful heart. Then came the moment that changed everything. Lucy said quietly, "Ethan, I like my life. I work hard, I pay my bills. I don't need anything from you." Ethan shook his head. "You're not asking for anything. I want to give." She bit her lip. "But why? You don't even know me." He smiled gently, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Because you're my sister, and because no one should have to build a life alone after losing so much." Lucy looked away, her voice barely a whisper. "Ethan, I'm not sure I belong in your world." "You don't need to belong in my world," he said softly. "I just want to be part of yours." Those words shattered the last of her hesitation. Over the next weeks, Ethan slowly integrated into Lucy's life, not as a billionaire trying to fix things, but as a brother making up for lost time. He visited her diner, sat at her tables, listened to her talk about her dreams of becoming a teacher. He offered to pay for college, and though she refused at first, she finally accepted, not as charity, but as family helping family. The emotional climax came one snowy evening when Ethan surprised her by renovating the abandoned community center near her apartment. When she asked him why, he said simply, "Because you once told me you wished you had a place to belong. Now you do, and so will every foster kid who walks through these doors." Lucy cried harder than she had the day she learned the truth. And in that moment, she realized something powerful. Being loved didn't require remembering the past, only accepting the present. With Ethan's support, Lucy enrolled in school, and together they created programs for children who had been abandoned, lost, or forgotten. The community center became a haven of kindness, built not from Ethan's wealth, but from the shared belief that no child should face the world alone. Years later, people would ask Ethan why he invested so much in a rundown part of the city. He always gave the same answer. "Because one day I found my sister in a diner. And that moment taught me that the greatest wealth in this world is family, lost or found." Lucy would smile beside him, her crescent-shaped scar now a symbol not of pain, but of reunion, resilience, and rebirth. And every time they locked eyes, both remembered the miracle that brought them back together. One scar, one moment, one act of compassion that rewrote the story of two lives forever. Their story became a beacon for others, proof that even after years of darkness, the light of love can still find you. Proof that family isn't defined by perfection, but by the courage to never give up on each other. Proof that hope, no matter how small, can survive decades and still bloom into something beautiful. And so, the billionaire who once lived with ghosts found peace. The waitress who once lived with questions found home. And together, they built a world where kindness wasn't rare, but normal, a world where no lost child was ever truly alone again.